some ideas that we've already thought.
The rendition that y'all have now is a resolution. The first one I've given y'all was an ordinance. So since it's moratorium, it's not permanent like what our ordinance is. So we now have it in the form of a resolution. But as y'all know, you know, the research that I did, this actually came from Troy. They had done a moratorium a couple years ago. So that was where this document came from. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we just took theirs and made a few changes to make it our own.
Well, and another little backstory, the reason we started discussing this a while back is because we've got a lot of growth. We know growth is good, and we don't want to squash, personally don't want to squash any growth, but just to make sure our infrastructure is built for our progress. Not a definitely stop of it indefinitely, it's just maybe a slowing down to make sure we're on track. I think there were some discussions about originally doing a 1 year, and we're kind of looking at maybe doing
6 months.
Yeah, I think the new version's got it for 6 months.
And the question I asked earlier, that about allowing the process to continue through the Planning Commission.
Yeah, because I that way the developer would already have everything in motion, and whenever y'all decide to end the moratorium, they're good to go.
And we could get our answers in less than 6 months. And this be, I mean, it can be lifted at any time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's during that 6 month and 180 days, however it ends up. Are we ready to get what information is needed, that we're not waiting until day 174 and say, well, let's start figuring out all of this because this is going to be ending here soon. I think whenever this goes into effect, whatever we're looking for needs to start immediately.
Sure.
It doesn't need to be, well, we got some time, 6 months to get this figured out.
And what I'm finding out, just from different department heads, I think we can get a lot of it from in-house kind of numbers. But I would like to make sure we do our due diligence since we are doing this. If we need to go out and hire someone, I really would not want to do that. But you know, if we need to.
Yeah. Well,
And it would start, because we're giving them 2 months, right? To get to the planning commission to get things approved.
Well, we wound up not having anything on the July agenda, so the next planning commission would be August. So, you know,
Give them August and September.
if y'all want to give them
I like to
August,
give them-
September, and the moratorium go into effect in October, you know, maybe.
Tim, are you aware that there's a ring in here from a microphone that's either that 58, something that's maybe? I think that's a lot better.
Yeah.
I was gonna start barking here in a minute. Sorry.
Don't worry, my wife says I can't hear, so I wouldn't have heard anything.
I wouldn't listen to you either.
Selective hearing, that's what it is.
So
Selective hearing.
where are we at? Welcome questions from the audience. Questions, comments.
One of the areas that I mean, I know we're only looking at 180 days, but y'all might be familiar with the opportunity zones of the the Tax Act of 2017 that created. We're very fortunate. All 67 counties got at least one opportunity zone. Calhoun County got more than one, but Census Tract 27.01, which includes, if we're thinking about west side of the square, north through most of the campus into Carpenter's Lane, if I'm not mistaken. But those are areas that, based on census data, are identified as economically impoverished a little bit, just based on numbers from census. Even though we're looking at 180 days, I would like us to not try to stop any development. And if it were to come about in that area, even though it's in that short period of time, I mean, the investors that are looking at trying to invest, I mean, if you're not familiar with opportunity zones, you can read up on it, or I can give you a crash course, but I'm just trying to think about, are we saying, hey, ADECA created this opportunity zone for commercial development, which could include some of these projects, it might be mixed use, and then we're telling an individual, sorry, the city's not gonna play nice with ADECA. I don't know if that would happen, but I'm just.
And what area now?
It's Census Tract 2701, so it's west of the square, and it's really just, it would include, just really, I mean, it would include the west side of the square, if I'm remembering the census tract exactly right, from starting there on the eastern side all the way out toward, like Lonely Pines, that area, north to Carpenter's Lane.
But that opportunity for the opportunity zone has been around for several years, 3 or 4 years.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, it was the tax cuts in 2017 that created that, and I think once it kind of got identified, ADECA, figured out that census tract. But Calhoun County has more than one. Some counties only got one opportunity zone, so.
My thought is, for what it's worth, if we're gonna keep having all these exemptions and all these changes or all these considerations, then why are we doing it? I mean, do we know what areas we're gonna hit? I mean, roads, water, sewer, I mean, I'm very much involved slowing it down and let's really look at everything. But we've got all these different angles that everybody has got valid reasons, but we're not doing what I think we intended to do. And we can't make everybody happy. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We're trying to help the city on down the road. That's the problem. And we're gonna wake up one morning, we'll think, well, I guess we should have thought about that. So why not do it and do it right? And like Councilman President here said, if we had to hire somebody, then let's hire somebody. But when we put this baby to bed, it ought to be to bed for 15, 20 years or 30 years or whatever. Or we can start making adjustments for that period of time. But I mean, if we're gonna do all that, I just think we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
So are you wanting basically an all or nothing kind of deal?
I think if we want to wait till October to clear some of the dust out, that's great. But then I think a year should be our plan instead of trying to buff it up. And we can always cut it off in 4 months.
Once we receive all the
But if
information.
but what happens if you got to do a survey and it's going to take them 2 or 3 months? And
Well, you give them 2 months to get it in.
that's
And
right.
then
October
we
deadline.
headed into
October.
winter, we're
Yeah.
not gonna have a lot of productive.
But we've got a lot of building and a lot of apartments, and, people ask me, well, how's the water and sewer going? I said, well, we're in good shape now, but now I don't know if everybody goes and flushes at the same time, what's gonna happen. So, I mean, that's for what it's worth.
And if you're making notes, it's Census Tract 2101, I'm sorry, I was thinking 27, it's 2101. Didn't sound right. But looking at those boundaries, it is the west side of the square, and, it follows the city limits.
Tart? Really? Tart?
Does he have all of that?
You're gonna get away with this. Someone always hears it.
Comments? Please address, your name and for the city clerk, please, address.
Sure. My name is Jay Jenkins. I'm representing Jay Jenkins Architecture today. We have a couple clients, a couple developers that we're working on multifamily housing with right now within your city limits. One is nearing submission to the planning commission, but not quite. So first, let me say that as someone that serves on a neighboring city council, I think what you're doing is smart. And making sure that what you have in place from an infrastructure standpoint can support the development that wants to happen in your community. So I think that's very smart. Secondly, I really appreciate the extension of time. I spoke to Mr. Stevens immediately after, the next morning after I became aware of the proposed moratorium, and presented him with some drawings that show that there's progress being made. Both of these clients have made an investment in purchase of property, have made an investment in at least the initiation of design that could be argued as substantial. And I'd hate for their investment to be, the return on their investment, I should say, to be delayed by this. So I think that giving the extra couple months to kind of let the dust settle and get the projects that are genuine. A lot of people talk about, hey, I want to do this, I want to do this. I get those calls every week, right? But in this case, I've got two that have done more than talk. And I'm standing here representing them today. One of them has even begun demolition on houses on Mountain already. It took them a while to collect the number of tracts that they wanted to collect to build the development that they could build. So it's been a project we've been working with them for over a year on, but it's taken a little while to get all the pieces and parts together. They finally have that and are moving forward. But I think that, given till October 1 to get it, where you got an August and a September planning commission meeting to get that in, that's reasonable. From a design perspective standpoint, we believe that to be fair. If these developers are genuinely serious about moving forward and doing things, they can make that happen in that time frame. It may be a stretch for some of them, but they can get there if they're motivated. So I think that the revised resolution makes good sense. It's something that we would be comfortable saying to my clients, hey, we've got a timeline, the clock's ticking now. If you're serious about this, let's get it done. And at least get it in front of the planning commission and moving forward. So I hope that you guys will continue to consider this in a positive way. I think you are. I do think you can get it done in 6 months time frame. I think you can evaluate what you've got and get it done in that time frame. I don't think it benefits the city to extend it much further beyond that. You don't want development that you can't support, but you don't want to stall or send development somewhere else as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, and I appreciate what you guys do. And if I can answer any questions of you either tonight or in the future, I'm happy to. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this matter? Now, if you're not aware, that's actually the reason why we did it and kind of how we went through the process. We could have expended the rules the very first meeting and went ahead and voted on it then, but we thought it would be prudent for all of us to get other voices in and information in to help with this process. So, Ms. Jenkins, thank you for being here. Is there any other discussion? So we good moving forward, October 1, 6 months, the zone?
Yeah, I mean, I know we're throw that as a roadblock kind of deal, but it's one of those, if there's any development that's within that area, that might be some of the ones that he was just referring to. I have no idea. I appreciate him speaking on behalf of those individuals. I don't ever want us to say, well, if we can support something in that interim, and it's a project that somebody says, hey, I gotta act on this, I've got somebody with money here, they're going here, they're going somewhere else. Well, sorry, it's December, you missed it, you're gonna have to wait till May. Well, somewhere else just got what that investment was.
And I understand that, and I think I understand what Terry was saying. I don't want to become like the federal government. Every time we try to pass something, we're gonna throw another, something else on it to get it passed. And we still have several weeks to look, to vote. If we're gonna be looking to make this official October 1,
Yeah,
we don't have to vote on it until middle of September. So if there's,
Can we just go ahead and start making our check sheets of where we need to check? That would help.
That's-
a whole lot.
yes, then-
We can get that started, then 6 months is workable, but if we don't wait till October 1 to start.
Sure, okay.
Looking at everything, then let's.
And that's essentially why I led with it. We gotta have that plan that, hey, we're not gonna wait till this goes into effect before we do something.
Exactly.
Just, we can do that right now. There's nothing that says we can't.
any other, you have anything, Sheriff?
No.
Cody, you good? Thank you. Mayor, you have any comments? All right, item C is the EMS standby service. How you doing there, Chief?
I like that shirt.
A couple of months ago, I was asked by some council members to look at our EMS standby fees. They hadn't been adjusted in about 10 years. As many of you know, we've never truly recuperated from COVID with the cost of medical supplies. An IV bag that used to be $2, now $6. And diabetic testing strips. A lot of the things we do on the EMS standby that we have no way to recoup our money is the items that's just went up 200–300%. So even the cost of an ambulance has went from, used to could get a good ambulance for about $200,000, now they're $400,000. So we looked at the standby fees. I called around to agencies around us, and we were way behind in what we charge for those standby fees. So this new rate moves us closer to, we're still a little bit below, but it moves us more in line with the agencies in Calhoun County that do standbys.
I'm sorry, Chief, I'm looking at your numbers right now.
That's what I was pulling back.
What would you say the percentage of increase is? from
Well,
what-
we've never really had a per hour fee. We've always done it flat rate, so the rate's basically doubled from
But
what we
this is
were
the first increase
in about 10 years.
in 10 years.
How are you, item 4 that's in that, how are y'all deeming the profit, non-profit?
Good question.
Because everybody's making profits up there.
Right. You know, there is certain activities that go on, that we would put an ambulance at, that was a charitable event or whatever. If you charge an admission, basically, these fees would be, levied on you. But, you know, if you were taking donations for charitable or whatever that required one, I don't think in those circumstances that we would levy that fee on you.
Okay. But that's, the one deeming it would be someone within your department. Because the way it says is, if the event is deemed for
Right.
profit. That's y'all deeming it.
Most of, I would say 99% of our standbys are
Or
for
for profit, okay.
Do you have plans like, instead of going 10 years, you review it every 3 to 5 years to where you don't get behind the 8 ball? Maybe?
I think that would be smart.
I think that would be, you know, I've talked to you about it. I think it's very important that the expensive cost that we have for you to be able to put things that, whether it's nonprofit or somebody wants it for free or whatever, however you want it. I just don't, you can't operate that way. Maybe years ago you could, but now I just don't see how you can do it. And I'm glad you reviewed all this and stuff, because I think that's a big step forward. People need it, and they need to pay for it.
We've done some audits in the past, you know, where we had standby crews and a lot of them during those period of times, 1 time and a half. Off-duty personnel has to come in, because typically it's dedicated to the event. And, you know, our supplies and then the cost of labor is our biggest cost. You know, a lot of times we can lose a couple $100 per event.
And sometimes more. Well, thank you for doing that.
Any more questions for the chief concerning this matter?
No.
All right, chief, you're up again. Is it pronounced Lexipol?
Lexipol. Those are SOGs or SOPs. I think the new terminology is more SOGs, but Lexipol keeps up with changing trends. They monitor Alabama Department of Public Health, which regulates our EMS division. And they also, they've come out with big policies and training issues now on EVs, electric vehicles, that's affecting fire departments nationwide. Vehicles came out without a real plan to combat them when they catch fire. I mean, typically, you just have to let the vehicle burn. Security saying just let it burn because copious amounts of water to put them out. Typically, you don't have that on the roadway. But much more. Their policies go much more in depth. They're upgraded. Policies have changed. We picked the policies that fit Jacksonville. Like I said, it'll cover our EMS, it'll cover our fire department. It's kind of, Marcus has already went to Lexipol, but it's kind of your voice when you're not on scene. The guidelines that how we operate are laid out to the employees and they follow those SOGs. They're tested on the SOGs. It comes with training modules that come with it too. That each month a training module will come out. For example, it could be EVs. They'll take the course online, and then there's a test that they'll take, certificates. It counts as part of our training, but it keeps up with trends. The one that they just had was on fentanyl. We all know that's a big problem for citizens and first responders, because sometimes just responding crews can touch somebody with fentanyl, and then the next thing you know, that person goes down too. So, it's a real good policy. It's somewhat expensive, but I think that the day and time we're in now, that it's time that we move there. We have some SOGs and policies now, but they're not tested true policies, I think, nationwide. They're like the Lexipol policies.
Any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, sir. Item E is the JSU e-scooters. Chief Wood, how are you today, Chief?
Doing good, how are you? All right, good evening. I think Mr. Grant has a PowerPoint. So I went through and did what you guys requested as far as mapping out areas that we wanted to propose to allow e-scooters in. So I kind of had to break it up in quadrants because we just wasn't able to kind of do a whole map. So what you see is north of Mountain Street, in between Highway 21, south of 204. To the left side, it goes up Gaston Road and it kind of cuts out down Carolina in behind the Coliseum and that general area there. Most of, if not all of that area that you see now encompasses the university campus. And so we didn't X out any streets on the campus that we didn't want to allow that, except for the area right around the baseball field, just because there's not a lot of infrastructure there for them to be able to ride the scooter. Everything would stay south of 204, since there is a sidewalk on the south side that individuals could travel on from Pelham Road up until right there in front of K.O. Brown Funeral Home, and then they could cross over park into the parking lot of the Coliseum. And so, you know, we think they could use that area to be able to leave them, get to the Coliseum, and then go south back towards Mountain Street. This one is on the east side of 21, starting at Bennett going north. So if you see on that left sideline where recently put the sidewalk, so they could go up and cross at Skelton, get on the east side of 21 and go up the side, they newly put sidewalk, in front of Merrill Hall and be able to travel through the parking lot, go over to the Stone Center. And then back on Church Street, there is sidewalk infrastructure from 11th, down to Bennett that they could use. And then the one thing that on Bennett, there's not sidewalks on both sides that go from Church to back to Pelham. But I wanted to get your thoughts on allowing them on some of the side streets, and be able to ride on those streets just like bicycles would, and, use the rules of the roads that bicycles use, the same for scooters. What we did throughout is no scooter would be able to ride on Pelham Road, Highway 21 at all. They would be able to cross Highway 21 at pedestrian crossings, and we'd be able to geo-fence out to where they wouldn't be able to ride on Pelham Road at all. But they could cross where there's a pedestrian crossing at, and allow them to do that. The next one, please. So this is the lower quadrant below Bennett. Same thing there. There's a sidewalk down Pelham Road in front of the library that they could use down the Roebuck Waters. That back side of Church Street, it goes down the hill where the Rock is planning to be. We cut that out simply because we didn't want to try to go up or down that hill, or going over to the Rock. It's not finished yet, so that's something we would evaluate in the future. And it cuts across right there just because we wanted to include the parking lot in the back of the library for individuals to be able to get to, and then we cut out Church Street totally there and included going back around the Roebuck Waters. On the first slide, you can see that on Pelham Road, down the west side of Pelham Road, there is sidewalk infrastructure that they could go all the way down to Mountain Street on the sidewalk, and they could cross at a crosswalk there, get on the other side of Pelham, and be able to travel down closer to the square. And I'll show you that here on the next one. So this is the southern part of the Mountain Street, well, I'll say the Mountain Street quadrant. We did it all the way out to Alexander Road there at the train depot. One of the things I wanted you to be able to consider was if we did want to allow people on this, again, on the Ladiga Trail to be able to do that. The thought process there is if they were able to use the Ladiga Trail from, let's say, Mountain Street until 204, that would get them off the side street still, and they could use that as an avenue to be able to travel. But everything in this quadrant covers some university property, some student housing. It also gets them to be able to travel to the College of Education, where the old Kenny Stone is, and then down Alexander Road, we did geo-fence into where they could go to the community center and back up, so they would have that ability. And you kind of see College Street, where they can go on College Street up to Spring. That would get them to the back side of the square. And then that left side where you see that onto around the square and down south has sidewalk infrastructure they could use. On the east side of the square, starting at about Brothers, or right below the square, there is sidewalk infrastructure there that could get them crosswalking down. Since the new development there in front of Valero, Chick-fil-A, all of that, according to zoning, they got those new sidewalks, so they will be able to get down until Such stops on that side. We went back and included Church Street as a road, if you guys will allow them to be able to travel on Church Street, and again, they would use the rules of the road as if they were riding a bicycle. Next one. And then this just shows the corridor, the Highway 21 corridor from, I think, Carolina, which is just north of Van, down to 80 Oaks. On both sides, there's significant sidewalk infrastructure that they could use. We also included Church Street in the back of that as well, that they would be able to use to get to some of those areas. And again, Highway 21 would be geo-fenced out to where they can only cross Highway 21 at pedestrian crossings, but they wouldn't be able to drive in traffic on Highway 21 at all.
Thank you, Chief. That's been a lot of work put in that. Appreciate that.
That was good.
Have you mention it to the scooter facilitators, GSU involved?
We've been involved in some email threads and conversations. You know, we all agreed to keep it below 204 because there isn't sidewalk infrastructure or pedestrian crossing that goes to the point of Gamecock Village or even Abbey Road. We do know that there's a plan about from AlDOT in maybe the next year or so to build that infrastructure to where there is sidewalks and pedestrian crossing. But we just thought it'd be best to keep it below 204 until that's put in place, and then we could extend it to that if that infrastructure got put in place and they were able to use it.
Is it, no offense, I know college students are much smarter than I am, but is it too confusing and broke up for them to be able to give them a pamphlet or give them some type of orientation, so you can't go here, you can't go there?
So that's the plan, is to solidify this map. SPIN has agreed to put the map in their informational stuff. They've agreed to come and do an actual riders training and through education through UPD and the safety council at JSU. They plan to get this information out to all of the students. The big thing is once the area's been geofenced, it does cut off to where they can't use it. And so in some areas as well, if they are able to cross those pedestrian crossings, the max speed is about 15 miles an hour, where when they're in those areas such as pedestrian crossings, the max speed is going to be 5 miles an hour. So it does have a governor in those places where we don't want them to be able to travel at 15 miles an hour.
If they break some of the rules, will they get ticketed, or what happened?
So we hadn't looked at any of the ordinance stuff yet. I'm still waiting on some wording from them, from SPIN, to be able to work on that draft. And so we hadn't got that far yet.
Good question, man.
Now, we don't share any liability either one on this. Since we're setting up the perimeters and everything on city property, are we gonna be?
We don't spend, so the contract will be between JSU and SPIN as a ridership program. They did tell us they had liability insurance and, so they will be able to present that, but then that will fall on the rider and between the rider and SPIN.
But if it's a bad sidewalk or got a little hump up and somebody's been the brothers and they go airborne, they're not gonna come sue us for that, are they?
He indicated that I forget the legal terms, he said, but their contract is written, or even when you scan the QR code to ride that bike, then you're not holding SPIN, JSU, or the city responsible as you decide to ride the scooter.
Thank you, Chief.
Well, I'm okay with it because it may actually help us promote some infrastructure updates as far as sidewalks. Maybe we get grants that if the process is there and we know they're here and they're here to stay, that kind of gives us a reason to pursue grants to help with our sidewalks.
I appreciate the effort to look at this. I think I was kind of viewing it that way as, and you summarize it, just keep it off at 21 and 204. And where there is an existing pedestrian crosswalk, you can walk it across the street at that crosswalk, and then you can pick back up wherever you were. And I'm fine with even operating on the city streets, because I mean, I think that's a little bit easier to navigate than Highway 21.
It is, and we thought if they just use the rules of the road, same as a bicycle. And as I rode around and looked at some of the areas, we do have the bicycles with arrows that say that we welcome those individuals to ride bicycles. So I thought if they use the same rules of the road, then this would be the same.
Anything?
I'm good. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
I'm sorry, the process, now you go, everything's fine, bring it back to us, and then we approve it?
Yes, sir. So once I get the wording for the ordinance that approves, then we're gonna use the e-scooters on sidewalks, that kind of thing, and I'll bring it back to you guys, and so I'll kind of put them on the timeline to give you that information, so hopefully they'll get it.
No, thank you, thanks, sir. Is there any other business to come for the council during the work session?
Yeah, something I'd like to bring up. You know, Choice Outfit is being resurfaced around the curve from 21 all the way around the curve, past the high school, past the first turning of the subdivision on the right. Stanley came to me, and he's on vacation, couldn't be here tonight, so I'm filling in for him, but he came to me and felt like it would be a very appropriate time for us to go ahead and pave the rest of the, MPO would not approve past that point. It's about 6/10 of a mile from there to the bridge on the Jackson Wheeler Road. And it might be a good time. This county has agreed to let us piggyback off of their bid for that paving, and have offered maybe, Commissioner Patterson said that maybe he could even help us a little bit. He hasn't given me a number yet with some of the costs. And they did do a cost estimate for us, and they're using their engineer to help us do the plan. So Lee Patterson is really helping us out with this, to do this. It's about $130,000 to do. That's the estimate that their appraiser has come up with. And then the second one is 8th Avenue. We've never been able to get MPO funding on 8th Avenue because of right-of-way requirement up there, and there's just no place to expand the width of that road, but it does need resurfacing. And it's about a half a mile, and it's about 61,000. So if we did both of those, it's about $192,000 based on their estimate. And their estimate should be pretty good because they bid it a year at a time, so I'll using their contractor. And one reason I bring it up tonight, I'd like to get it approved tonight if y'all see fit, is that it's the same contractor that has the contract to do George Downfield. We could just let them go ahead and do it while they're here and make this price a little cheaper, I think, to do that. So they could do both projects while they're in town. It's about $190, and we do have funding and fire tax to do that. We try to hold back a lot of that money to use it matches for other grants, but we're up.
I heard him. You said, I don't know if you realized that, or that was a Freudian slip. You said fire tax. There's money in fire tax.
Sorry, Keith.
I thought it was money in fire tax. I thought we was going to have an opening for fire chief there for a moment. I mean, I had to, brother being brother, I had to save him.
I appreciate that.
Somebody called 911 for the fire chief. I guess I always had that on my mind. How can I get that? Something like fire tax. I didn't mean fire tax. I meant the gasoline tax.
Which we do have some copies of that.
Yeah, that's pretty much before you tonight. So we do that one. Sorry. Sorry, Keith.
He automatically squirmed. That was so funny. No, and I appreciate you doing that, because there's so many times in the past that we've had these MPO projects, and only like 800 feet or 600 feet to finish out the stretch of road, but due to the rules and regs of the MPO, we can't. So if it's possible and we have the funds available, let's finish them out.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Is it on the agenda? I mean, it's a
No.
vote.
It's on the amendments on it that you sent, Paige.
Mayor, is this one of the projects when Stanley has the list of roads that need to be done?
No,
Is
it's
it-
not. It's not one of the prioritized projects. This one came up because we're getting the appeal funding for the other.
Right,
Decided to go ahead and slip those in there.
okay.
But he still has his priority list. that
Yes,
he's
sir.
working on. I don't think either one of them are. I'm not sure.
Anything else, sir?
That's it for me.
Anything else from anyone else? If not, we'll take a short break and give us 5 minutes, and we'll come back and continue the meeting. Thank you.
I have to introduce you as a fifth one.
Back to order and move on to item 7, and that's the adoption of the minutes.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Motion is second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. The adoption of the agenda, I think we have some additions.
And we do. To the main agenda, add item 12A, consider action to approve JPWP number 24-127, George Douthat Drive Southwest and 8th Avenue paving project per the attached. To the consent agenda, add item 15, budget amendment request. Item 2 is police. A is an increase account number 1002-6101-00-60125 in the amount of $182 for restitution. And B is increase account number 10-02-6101-00-6125 in the amount of $5.87 for restitution. And then finally, to the consent agenda, add item 15A, purchases over $7,500. 1 is capital projects. A is $39,851.16 to Greer Building Contractors LLC for JPWP number 22-101, New City Hall. And then item B is $32,406.47 to Greer Building Contractor LLC for JPWP number 22-101, New City Hall.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 9 is public comments concerning any agenda item. This is your opportunity to address the council on our current agenda, on the agenda. Have public comments or later. Yeah, you'll have your opportunity during public comments, okay? All right. Anything that is currently on the agenda to discuss? Seeing no one come forward, move on to item 10.
Consider action to receive the planning commission report regarding a zoning amendment request by the city to amend and replace section 24-281-1 motels and hotels to chapter 24 zoning, article 4, off-street parking and loading of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Jacksonville, and schedule a public hearing for August 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. I think it's for the same or something.
So moved.
We don't do all of them,
We got to take an action, didn't say action?
To accept the, report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 11.
Consider action to receive the planning commission report regarding a zoning amendment request by the city to amend and replace section 24-101C5, minimum dwelling size, section 102C5, minimum dwelling size, and section 24-103C6, minimum dwelling size to chapter 24, zoning, article 3, zoning district, plan unit development and overlay district regulations, division 2, residential districts of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Jacksonville, and schedule a public hearing for August 12th, 2024 at 6:00 p.m. for same.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 12.
Consider action to approve the retail off-premise malt brewed and table wine license for Bashir Muflihi, doing business as Bashir Muflihi LLC, for the business located at 1050 Pelham Road South, Jacksonville, Alabama.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is the same property we've discussed at some point, I presume ABC has
Yes, sir.
provided any of that documentation.
Since you brought that up, there is, I know it's probably already been looked at the location, not necessarily the owners, multiple owners. Especially when it may be possibly, and I'm not saying this person is related, but when there's a family chain of change of ownership, maybe something in the future to look at, if there's some kind of state or even federal something that we might could pinpoint the location, not necessarily the ownership. I don't know, I don't know if there's anything out there, I don't know if that's what you were thinking.
I was just, I mean, I know that, it was just something that we discussed before.
Is it still family? I don't think it is it?
No, I think it's somebody totally different.
I think so. Mhm. Yeah, that's my purpose, I wasn't sure if it was same way. All right, any other comment? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any other comments? I'll get this right in a second. All right. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 12A.
Consider action to approve JPWP number 24-127, George Douthat Drive Southwest and 8th Avenue paving project per the attached.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, 2 seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 13.
Consider action to authorize the mayor to sign the master service agreement with Lexipol for policy and procedure solutions for the fire department.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 14.
Consider action to approve the termination of the following: Cameron Russell, utility maintenance assistant, effective immediately.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Consent agenda.
Item 15, budget amendments. Item 15A, purchases over $7,500. Item 16, request to attend conference training session with cost exceeding $1,000.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 17 is public comments for any general item. This is your opportunity to come address the council. Just please state your name, address, and make sure you get with the city clerk before you leave.
Cindy Kilgore, 1773 Broadway, Jacksonville, Alabama. I'm here for the same thing I was here last time. But since there's been an accident on that corner that I was telling everybody about, you cannot see, I don't know who's in charge of it, Broadway Road, Cedar Springs. It's a jackback, and you can't see, and people go across, there's a stop sign, they stop, they go, they get hit. This person was flipped up in my driveway, and we had to rescue him on the back, and the dogs and everything, 2 days after the last meeting y'all had. A lot of police were there, and fire department was there, and everybody got checked out, they were all fine. But that's gonna happen 5 times a day, when you put 350 new cars in Broadway Mill Road, that little section right there. I just hope that y'all do something before they get it built all the way to that corner. I think they plan on putting their trash bins right there. They got some cement things right there right now, it needs to be cut back, so you can see, or at least put a red line or something to stop. 'Cause there's a hill right there. Come up over the hill, Cedar Springs, and it's that way, to Broadway Road, and you can only see like from here to that wall, and you're hit. But, I'm just trying to save y'all having to talk to parents when all the kids get moved into that 350 apartment, complex, the chicken houses. The rest, you know.
Chief, I don't know if you have already, do you mind speaking with Ms. Kilgore about where our boundaries start and stop and how that works, as you leave? If you could get with, Chief Wood?
I know we're not part of the city yet, but Jacksonville State University students have already rented the whole place.
Yes, ma'am, that's still, I think the chief will maybe explain something to you. I appreciate you coming, and you have all the right to come in, but, we're limited on what we can do with that property, because it's not actually city
I
limits.
know, that's what I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
No.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
As you know, my name is Patricia Daigle, and I live at 72 Betty Court. And I'm here to speak about my concerns over individuals in the city of Jacksonville shooting off fireworks. I'm patriotic as the next person, and I love to watch fireworks displays as long as they're done safely and respectfully. According to the code of ordinance, 10-29, prohibition of discharge. It shall be unlawful for any person to ignite, explode, project, or otherwise fire or use or permit the ignition, explosion, or production of any fireworks upon, over, or onto the property of another, or to ignite, explode, project, or otherwise fire or make use of any fireworks within 10 feet of any residence, dwelling, or other structure. And then we have Code of Ordinance, Article 2, noise. Section 10-19, loud and disturbing noises and vibrations prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any person himself or knowingly to permit another person in any place owned and or controlled by him to create, assist in creating, permit, continue, or permit the continuance of any unreasonably loud, disturbing, or unnecessary noise which either injures or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, or safety of persons of ordinary sensibility within the city limits of Jacksonville. I can understand that people have a right to shoot off fireworks. However, we live in a community where our homes are too close to each other to safely shoot them off without the potential of embers or an errant firework landing on my property, vehicle, or home and starting a fire. Some of us have family members that have sensitivity issues with the sound of the fireworks. We deal with it the best that we can for as long as we can. But when we are still up at 12:30 at night, still listening to our neighbors shoot off their fireworks that they started at 9 o'clock, it gets to be a little much. We specifically did not call the emergency line this year, but we know someone that did, and she was told that what did she expect? It was the 4th of July. And actually, when she called, it was 12:30 in the morning on July 5th. And that was what was told to her. She lives off of Mount Street where the homes are even closer to each other. I know that there are more important things than a few nights of fireworks 2 times a year to deal with, but this affects quality of life for some of us for several days afterwards. It would be nice if we could do some reminders of the ordinances and make an effort to more actively police when complaints are made, because it is well after the decent hour to be shooting off fireworks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, ma'am. Thank you.
Is there anyone else like to address the council? Seeing no one come forward, we'll move on to council member remarks.
Yes, I'd like to bring to everyone's attention that the Eastwood reunion did happen Saturday. It was bring your own boat at some point in the time of the day. But they had a great turnout. The spirits were good. Travis Akins and his committee that put the reunion on, I mean, they went all out. They worked hard every year. I'd like to thank Bert and Andy and Sherry and Pat and Ben, who all came out, and some got wet and some left early enough they didn't get wet, but it was a good turnout. It was the official kickoff for the restoration committee of the school, and we've gotten all kind of information to be sent out on posting on our websites and our Facebook, whatever, and then Travis and their committee and Sandra Suddeth and Ms. Sims, they're heading up the committee from the restoration committee. So they're all working hand in hand. We've come a long way in the last year. There are some good things that I feel like that will be able to happen, that we're getting closer and closer to maybe the money coming in to where we can start the project. But it was a good day, good attitude, and people, they had a good time. And they shut off fireworks cheap, but they didn't have to worry about there was enough water around. Your people were there anyhow, but I called Carl and said, hey, don't hurry over there, there's plenty of water. So they're good. But anyhow, I'd like to thank them and everyone that did this, because this is going to be a project for a lot of people to be involved that have already been and down the road for this to work. But I know the committee is feeling pretty good about it, and we'll get there. Thank you.
I echo what Terry said. It was a wonderful event, and to those that put it on, I mean, wow, what a great time to see kids playing, even in the mud, playing kickball out there in that field. That was something special. But to see people coming back into Jacksonville for something, that they hold in common, and as we were talking about, just for the future of what Eastwood can become from a community gathering center, and then when there is inclement weather, we can move that party inside, maybe, because my shoes are still wet, I think. But that was a great time, as was Jack's Fest, and I see Janice back there. Janice, to you and to your team of folks, wow.
Absolutely.
I had someone tell me it was the most Americana Norman Rockwell view of the city, and really, if you were ever, you didn't slow down because I saw you for a minute there, but if you were ever up in the public safety complex looking east and just seeing people interacting, it was a wonderful time. I mean, save not having the fireworks, so I'm so glad to hear that the gentleman's doing well and was released. But to me, the festival itself and having people interacting, and heard a man, I think I told you, Chief Cato, he said, I've never been to Jacksonville before. This is the first time I've been to Jacksonville. This is awesome. And so for all of those who played a role in it, because I know there was a lot of hands, but thank you for leading in that.
Absolutely.
I had a good time.
I'd just like to echo what Andy said. I was out of town. I was clear across the country, and was hearing positive things about Jack's Fest and the participation and all the hard work going on. I regret that we're not allowed fireworks, but I had to think about the person that was injured. Prayers went out, but I do believe they're home now. This was one of those events you prepare for, but it happens. So once again, thank for everyone who took part of putting that together. Anything?
Oh, I want to echo off of Andy.
Andy, you want to echo?
Echo off of Andy and Tony. Thank you, Janice, for your magnificent. I was out of town too. I hated I wasn't here, but I heard so many positive things about it. And the Eastwood Community Reunion was awesome. We had a lot of participation, a lot of families coming home, and they're seeing the potential. And I think the momentum by Terry and the other committees heading the committees, they have momentum, and they see that the city is behind them, and we really want this to happen, and then see how it'll benefit that community on that side of town. So we really thank you for everything you did over there too also. Thank you. You
gotta echo something.
Yeah, what all they said.
You gotta say ditto or say something.
I'm at the end, so it's all been covered.
You were gonna talk about, Cody, how the bathroom trailer being used this week was so nice. That we had, I mean, we saw it being used at Jack's Fest, but even at the reunion at Eastwood.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
That has already been received very, very well.
It's not big enough.
Well,
it was full.
We've talked about maybe, adding to the fleet of.
It's great, but it got full quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cost thing.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was used, so yeah.
It is good.
Some people were using it as a cooling down station.
Yeah, I told him you have to put 30-minute time in it. It is cool.
So you are not
Put a
at
quarter
home.
slide or something on it.
You're not at home, okay?
Put the phone down.
Put the
Okay,
phone down.
are we finished with the mayor's
Yes.
report? Thank you all. Mayor's report, sir.
I think I can follow that. No more echoes, Janice, but again, thank you. I did want to ask you, maybe you can give a little report on the condition of the person that got injured.
Okay, his name's Aaron. I keep trying to rename him Gary, so it's kind of a joke between me and Chris, the lead technician. The lead technician, Chris, has been shooting our shows for years. I think he's a 23-year veteran with it, but he said Gary has a appointment with a hand specialist tomorrow, so, but he did get to go home. He is recovering in good spirits. But I think the mental state of Aaron and Chris as well, I think Chris is having a hard time with just seeing it and it happening on, basically on his watch. But kudos to Carl Harrell. It was his shift, and he, I just happened to be back there when it all happened, and he handled it. He said he felt like it was chaos, but he couldn't tell it. So kudos to Carl and his crew for handling that as well as they did. But yeah,
if I remember correctly, about 6:15 when that accident occurred, and we didn't make an announcement until 8:30 because everybody was having such a good time, and we found once Paul that he's being taken care of, and waiting to make the announcement about 8:30, getting close to time for the fireworks to be shot, so everybody could continue to, kids could continue to enjoy all the activities, and it was a great event, even though we had that tragedy to occur. But and hopefully they've kind of promised they'll give us a show sometime later to make up for the missed show this
And
year.
we'll get, once they do that and we get to, get in touch with them, we'll discuss that on the options that we have.
Well, moving ahead, a lot of things happening at the library. The adventure has begun there, and I honestly have no idea what that adventure is, so you'll have to go to the library and look on their website and figure that out. The next, the third Friday of July this time is a cruise in here at City Hall parking lot. So if you remember one of those great car clubs with an old vehicle that you'd like to show off and fix it up, or you want to just come by and look at all of them the other people have, that'll be a good event on the 19th.
Are you bringing your vehicle?
I can't get in it. So. Or out. Yeah.
In or out.
I can fall in it. I just can't get out of it.
You bring your truck.
Yeah, I can bring my old truck. Just a reminder, back to school. It's amazing we're already talking about that, but the back to school sales day is coming up. The sales, tax-free sales day, if I can ever get that out, July 19th, 24. So that's all I have.
Thanks, sir. Is there any other business?
I'd like to say one thing concerning the accident. I agree with Janice Carl and his crew did an outstanding job. But Marcus and Odie and I think Campbell ran up there too and set a fire that, could potentially have been bad. But that's the way our two departments work together now. They got while all my people were patient care, trying to secure the scene as far as the fireworks still going off. They got our brush truck, went up there and put that woods fire out. So one council meeting, I'm gonna give them some junior firefighters back.
Hey.
They got to live their dream,
They're gonna want to convert now.
Right.
That's all police officers are. They always want to be firefighters.
I may give them some of your fire tags. It's pretty.
That's pretty. I think they'll settle for some fire tax money.
Well, we do appreciate what they did. It's, that's just how good we work together, and everybody working for one team.
That's good.
Thank you all. Ms. Burke?
Consider action to enter into an executive session under provision of the Code of Alabama, section 36-25A-787, regarding matters of economic development.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Ms. Laster?
Yes.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Thank you all for being here. We will not be returning. We'll be in the executive.